Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Chris Winter, and in this video, I'm gonna go through what I think is one of the best vlogging setups for most people, and also one that's relatively budget friendly. And guys, if you make YouTube videos, definitely make sure to check out my brand new list that I just made, the best cameras for YouTube. I go through some of the cameras that would be best for you. So if you wanna check that out, I'll put a link in the description box below this video and you can take a look. But anyway, let's now take a look at this vlogging setup. So hopefully I can help you guys figure out if this is the right kind of setup for you. So this is my vlogging setup that I'd recommend for most people, especially if you're just starting out or if you want to improve your vlogs, say you've been using something like a phone, for example. This here is definitely what I would be recommending, and it comprises of around about 3 or 4 different parts. Now, the first and most obvious part is the camera body itself, and the camera that I would generally recommend is the Canon SL2 or 200D. It's a relatively new DSLR and it's got a couple of really good features for vlogging. The very first feature that I recommend in pretty much any vlogging setup is a flip out screen, and this one's got it right here. So the great thing about this is that when you're going to be vlogging, you're generally going to be holding the camera yourself. You can actually flip the screen around and you can see yourself and make sure that you're going to be in focus and in frame. Being able to have this screen is awesome as well when you're traveling, because you can flip it around and then have it on the back here as well. And then if you are traveling, you can flip it and then close the screen so it's actually protected when you're actually going to be traveling, so you don't actually scratch the screen. The other thing about the Canon SL2 that I really like is that it's got dual pixel autofocus. Now, what is dual pixel autofocus? Well, if you know anything about Canon DSLRs, they've had this for the last few years, and it's been a bit of a revolution because dual pixel autofocus means you're going to be getting smooth and cinematic autofocus pretty much wherever you point your camera. So with a vlog, you generally aren't going to be using manual focus unless you're a bit of a pro, but you're going to be quickly, having the camera here. If you're pointing this way, whatever's going to be in front of you is going to be coming smoothly and cinematically into focus. If you've got it here, it's got face tracking as well, so you know that even if I'm just holding the camera right here, it's going to be tracking my face and it's going to be in focus. It really does work really well. Now, a lot of cameras back in the last 5, 6, 7 years, especially DSLRs, had really bad autofocus, so it is great that the Canon SL2 now has dual pixel autofocus, and I can't recommend it highly enough. The other thing about the Canon SL2 is that it's got a microphone jack, which brings me to my second point, and this is something that's really important for a vlog, and that is having an external microphone. Now, some cameras don't have the option to have an external microphone, something like a Canon G7X or a Sony RX100 Mark V, but it is nice when you can have it because you can get better quality sound. If you've ever tried to use a camera without a microphone jack, you might have noticed that the sound is a little bit tinny, a little bit hollow, and it doesn't sound great. So what I've gone and added to the Canon SL2 right here is this microphone, and this here is the Rode Video Micro. Now this one here is actually relatively cheap, and all of this kit right here is relatively cheap in relative terms. This comes in at around about $50, which is actually quite good value, and it comes with this very little thing right here, which is called a dead cat. You can actually take this off and you can see that this is the size of the microphone. It is really quite small, hence the name micro, but we'll put this back on right now. And what I've actually done, if you can actually see this normally is a little bit larger. I've actually gone and used my, my beard trimmer, and it trimmed some of the fur off, the excess fur, because I think that this looks a little bit better, and that is why the size of this is a little bit smaller. But all you need to do is plug it on top of your camera, wrap that around, and then it's pretty much good to go. The other great, the other great thing about the Rode Video Micro is that it doesn't require batteries. So a lot of other microphones, especially the higher end ones, will require a battery, and they'll also be required to turn them on. So I've known that the Rode Video Mic Pro, the old version, you had to turn it on all the time, and if you didn't turn it on, you wouldn't have any good quality audio, and that was pretty unfortunate. So this is nice for vlogging because you can pretty much just turn it on and you're good to go. So the next thing that we're going to be talking about in this setup is on the front of the camera right here, and this is the lens. Now, the lens to me in vlogging is actually really, really important for a few different reasons. Firstly, this lens here has image stabilization. Now, this is super important for vlogging because generally when we're vlogging, most of the time, we're going to be hand holding the camera. We don't have a tripod, although I do have one right here, but a lot of the time you will see that most vlogs are going to be held at about arm's length, And although we do have our arm to have a bit of stabilization, it's always better to have a lens with image stabilization. The lens that I've got right here is the Canon 10 to 18 millimeter STM. It's a relatively budget lens as well, but the great thing about this lens is that it's got image stabilization. It's got great autofocus because it's a STM lens, which means it's going to have silent autofocus as well. It really does pair up well with the dual pixel autofocus in the camera. But the other great thing about this, and the reason why I recommend this as my #1 go-to lens for vlogging, is that it shoots at a very wide focal length of 10 millimeters. So a standard lens that you would get with your a normal DSLR is this one right here. This is a 18 to 55 millimeter. 18 on the wide angle is pretty wide, but when you're holding your camera like this, you're mainly going to be getting your head in the shot. With a 10 to 18 millimeter, it goes way wider and you're going to be getting a much more dynamic shot, and it's a lot easier to make sure that you're going to be in the frame rather than having to worry about this one here, which is a little bit too cramped for me. So you'll see that most vloggers, the likes of, let's say, Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat, Jorn Olsen, they all use a really wide lens, and that's how you're going to be getting that great dynamic shot, and you're not going to have to worry too much about your focus because it's going to be a wider field of view and also being in frame. So this is definitely a lens that I would highly recommend. The other great thing about it is that it's super light. It's like an incredibly light lens. I've got a 50 millimeter f1.8 here, and they're about the same weight. So highly recommended for me, this lens right here, the 10 to 18 millimeter STM. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about in this vlogging setup, I don't normally make videos this continuous, but I'm on a roll here, is this right here. Now this is a little tripod from a company called Manfrotto, which is actually a very popular tripod company in the photography community. But they made this little tripod here, which is called the Pixie Mini. Now, when you've seen a lot of vlogging videos, you've probably seen a tripod that looks a little bit funny. It's called a Joby GorillaPod. I'll put a photo up right now, and you can see that that's got a series of balls connecting it, which allows it to be really flexible. I've used these before, and I'm not a huge fan of it, unfortunately. They can be quite good, but there's a few different things that I don't like about it. Firstly, I do find it looks a little bit funny. Generally, they just look a little bit crazy. Secondly, they can be quite big unless you want to get a smaller one, but they can't hold as much weight. And thirdly, the balls and the sockets that they have in that tripod, they can become loose with time. They lose their strength. So what I recommend is actually this tripod here. This is the Manfrotto Pixie Mini, like I said, and there's a couple of things that I really like about this tripod. Firstly, it's very solid. So the legs themselves, they can't bend. Of course, this means that you can't hang it up in a tree or something like that, but I found with vlogging, it generally isn't that, that's not what you end up doing. You'll normally be putting it on the ground or on a table or wherever you can find, and this works perfectly well for that, and it's very solid and it's not gonna lose its strength. The second thing that I really like about it is its build quality. Like I said, it is really well made. It is made out of a very solid kind of plastic material, but everything does feel really good, and it doesn't feel like anything's gonna rust or kind of corrode after time. The last thing that I really like about this, and probably my favorite thing about this tripod, is this little button on the front here. It's got a little red Manfrotto logo. And if we press this down, you can actually see that we can now move the ball head on the top here. And if I let go of it, it's now locked in place. So let's connect this quickly to my camera just by spinning the thread right here. And you can see now, without me holding that button or pressing it down, the camera is in place nice and solid. But let's say we quickly want to change the position of the camera, press down the button, and the camera is locked solid right there. So let's say we are going to get a time lapse of a sunrise. All you need to do is quickly press down the button and you can leave the camera right there. Let's do it a bit higher and we'll leave it there. Down, leave it there. It's a small thing, but I really do like this. And I think that Manfrotto are onto a real winner here. And I think that this in the future might be a little bit better than the Joby GorillaPod, especially over the longer term. So Definitely one of my favorite things on this vlogging setup, an essential one here. Again, this is really quite cheap, I think around about $35, depending on where you're gonna buy it. Highly recommended, the Manfrotto Pixie Mini. I've got one last thing, which I'm gonna add on to this little vlogging setup, and that is this right here. This here, don't worry about the strap. This is a strap that I had from my Panasonic GM1, but it's these little things on the end, and these are clips which allow you to quickly and easily remove your shoulder strap. So what I can do right here, I have these little clips on my camera as well. All I need to do is clip them on and clip them on, and now I can actually have my vlogging camera on my shoulder. And the great thing about this is that if I want to, I can quickly unclip it, and I don't have to actually worry about trying to fiddle out those standard shoulder strap connections either way. So it really is fantastic. You can pick these up for just about $2 or $3 on Amazon. Depends on where you can find them, but I thought they were fantastic. Clip them on, and it's just a lot easier than having to carry your camera around. And the great thing is that if you've got multiple pairs of these, which I do, I can now quickly change my shoulder strap to the other camera. And now I have my shoulder strap on my Panasonic GM1. Pretty cool. Really, really do like these little clips, and I think that they're gonna work quite well for something like a vlog. So there you go, guys. That was a very long-winded kind of overview of this very awesome vlogging setup. Look, there are going to be better cameras. I mean, you could also always get a camera like a Panasonic GH5, which is going to be shooting in 4K. But to me, vlogging isn't necessarily about the absolute best image quality, and dealing with 4K files can be a big pain because they can be quite large and quite heavy. So 1080p shoots in slow motion with the Canon SL2. Pair it up with a nice microphone, the Rode Video Micro. Then you've got the nice lens, the 10 to 18mm. This is really important, and this will really change the game for you guys. And then top it off, you've got the Manfrotto Pixie Mini tripod. Really steady, quite small, but very, very nice tripod. And then if you want to have your shoulder straps, we've got these little clips, which I will put a link in the description box below. But that's pretty much it, guys. I also generally pair it off with a GoPro. Got my GoPro Hero 5 here. That's it for me. I'm going to have my coffee, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys got a little bit out of this video. See you later, guys. Bye.